world, and welcome to the second part of my tutorial on creating a simple beat in Unreal Engine Metasounds. This will be pretty short as compared to the first part of this tutorial. I just forgot some stuff last time that I want to add in now. And it's some fun stuff to do. We already changed the BPM from our input parameters, and we changed the patterns of our snare, kick and hi-hats. And another thing we can do, of course, is changing our scale that we promoted to an input, and also our root note, which will affect all aspects of the sounds that are tuned to the scale and to the root note. For instance, our kick up here and our three melodic elements down here, of course. They are also scaled to root note and note array. So let's check out how that sounds like. First of all, I think I want this even lower volume. Yeah, that's better. So let's change it to a minor scale first, Dorian scale. It's a little bit more melancholic or sad as compared to the major scale, which is more happy. Also change the root note. And you can hear the bass line, the pad and the melody are all affected by the root note and the scale, and also the kick changes its tuning too. Of course, our snare frequency is completely separate. We put it to a separate input just called snare frequency, which is not tuned to the note array or to the root note. You can of course do that, but we kept it as a separate input for this. Let's switch it back to major. A second thing I want to show here is how to introduce some randomization, and we use our first melodic element for this. If you drag off the note input, you get a selection of two random notes. Let's take the random float first. So this is completely random. It's just based on a range that you put in here. But the melodic pattern, if it's 0 or a note, is still affecting the trigger compare. So if we connect this, we get a slightly or completely different pattern. So the pattern plate here, based on the trigger compare, is now also based on these notes, on these random picks. Another option for randomization is random get a float from our float array. So we don't use a range here, we use the original array that we created. And now it's picking randomly from these parameters. The pattern is based on our completely random float. Let's connect it to the original pattern again. Yeah, so sometimes it's picking zeros. Let's connect this so it lines up. Now it's also picking zeros, but then the node picked here is also a 0. And whenever it picks a higher value here, it's also triggering the envelopes. Yeah, that's basically it for randomization. Randomization of melodies, pretty simple. Let's make something more interesting and try to introduce some randomization for our snare pattern. Here we actually start with random bool. We don't need to random get bool from an array, because in the array are zeros and ones, and complete randomization leads to the same. The only difference is that we only have 1/4 of the array is ones, so it will pick ones less frequently. And from this value we have to convert it to an integer to do some more operations with this. And let's put it in some more times. So here it's gonna pick randomly if it's true or false. Convert this to 0 or 1, and here with 0 and 1 we can do some math. Like that. So this is gonna if it picks a 1 here and a 0 here, it stays 1, then another 1 here, it goes back to 0. If it picks a 0 here and a 1 here and here, it's gonna go to -2. So we only want 0 and 1s, so we clamp it between 0 and 1. I think we can't do AND or options here with the booleans. At least I'm not sure how to do it in Metasounds right now. That's a little bit strange. Yeah, and here we want to add this value 0 or 1 to this 0 or 1, so it's either 0, 1 or 2, and compare it to 0. It doesn't really matter if it's 1 or 2 at this point. So this should lead to some additional snare hits. Let's check it out. It works. And let's introduce another complication here, and that is affecting the volume of our additional hits. So we use this clan volume 0 or 1. No, that's wrong. We want to subtract it from here. So if the additional snare plays and also the original snare trigger is affected, it's not gonna fire. It's only firing when this one plays, but this is not playing. Otherwise, let's clamp this again. Between 0 and 1, so if we get a 0 here and a 1 on the original snare, this stays 0. And here we want to use another trigger compare, or can use this one. So if this is different from 0, we want to get another envelope. And we map that range. And we go to this part. So we affect our volume of the click part of the snare. And maybe also our body part, we can check that out, how it sounds. And this actually want to be maybe like that. I forgot one thing. It's always affecting it. So when we have our main gain control here, we want to add that value. Oh no, that's yeah, that doesn't make sense. We actually need another trigger compare and compare this to the original element, and if this is false, we set one with these values, enveloper, and this we add here. let's pull this down here and make our comment here. Randomization. Maybe we don't want the body affected. Oh yeah, we want the body affected. But this is sounds a little bit too short. Probably because it's always affected here. Does it sound when we do it like that? So now this is only getting lowered when so this makes more sense when this envelope is not triggered, the output is 1, and when it's triggered it goes down to 0.3. So for the normal hits that are still determined by these other envelopers here, but also affected by this one, we get the original snare hit. And for our additional snares here, the randomized snare, for the additional snares we get some decreased volume. There might be a simpler way to set this up. But I actually like the outcome now. And yeah, that's basically it. Maybe I put this random notes down here. Let's call it random notes. And change the color again, so I have a nice clean patch at the end of this tutorial. Yeah, that's basically it. That's how you can introduce some randomization without duplicating some of these envelopes. Of course, you could make this connected to additional oscillators and just change the settings, but I think this is a little bit more well, I wouldn't call it logical, but where you keep your original oscillator, so whenever you want to change the sound, want to change the filters here or whatever, you can just change it in the original oscillator and filter section. without duplicating your changes all the time for the random nodes that get triggered. But of course that would be easier to set up because you don't need the negative envelope here, and you don't need the trigger compared to the original count that we put in here. So as everything in life, it has advantages and disadvantages. So you can decide for yourself what makes more sense for your patch. And I hope you like this tutorial and this little addition I made. Let me know if I can help you with something else. Let me know if you have ideas for additional tutorials. That's it for today, and see you next time.